Let's get to the news. The U.S. on Saturday launched strikes against 3 Iranian nuclear sites in a surprise attack. Well, surprise to everyone who's not on Pete Hegseth's text chain. President Trump addressed the country on Saturday night to announce that the U.S. had bombed 3 nuclear sites in Iran. Maybe it was to help Israel, maybe it was to boost his own reputation, but it was definitely so he could finally use the "We Got Bin Laden" hallway. You know he's been eyeing that hallway since day one. Just looking for any good reason. I birdied 2 holes on Saturday. Should we get the hallway ready, guys? Should we do hallway? Which hallway? I don't know. Maybe the Bin Laden hallway? After announcing that the U.S. had bombed Iran, the White House released several photos of President Trump from the Situation Room wearing a red "Make America Great Again" hat. That doesn't look like a serious statement. This looks like your bring your grandpa to work day. The New York Times yesterday published a report on how President Trump decided to strike Iran, and I got it in one. Vice President J.D. Vance defended President Trump's decision yesterday to launch airstrikes against Iranian nuclear sites and said, "We do not want war with Iran. We actually want peace." I don't know, man. I think what you might actually want is a dictionary. In the same interview, Vance also said that Americans are fatigued after entanglements in the Middle East, but added, quote, "The difference is that back then we had dumb presidents, but now we have the guy who just misspelled his own name on social media." Say what you will about W, but he could spell W. The CEO of the messaging app Telegram said in a recent interview that his multi-billion-dollar fortune will be left to the 6 children he has with 3 different partners and the more than 100 children conceived through sperm donation. And I just have to say it's refreshing to see a billionaire who knows how many kids he has. Democratic Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez called for President Trump's impeachment after Saturday's attack on Iran. Okay, well, that'll be his 3rd one, so I'm pretty sure he doesn't care. If anything, just gets him closer to a free sub. New York Governor Kathy Hochul yesterday declared a state of emergency amid a heat wave that's expected to break 125-year-old records, which means it's time for my favorite hobby, going down to Times Square to watch the Elmos fate. Yeah, he's down! New research suggests that marijuana use is associated with a higher risk of heart attack, mostly because you think every noise you hear is the cops. That's right, new research suggests that marijuana use is associated with a higher risk of stroke and heart attack, so not a direct cause, but, you know, associated. And finally, Sonic Drive-In has announced it will offer a Pickle Rita slush made with a pickle juice flavored boba after asking themselves, what is the absolute worst thing you could spill in your car? President Trump announced yesterday in a post on Truth Social that Israel and Iran have agreed to a ceasefire and added, quote, "Congratulations to everyone." Are you brokering a ceasefire or hosting the Tonys? Congratulations to all our winners tonight. Get home safe. In another post on Truth Social, President Trump defended his recently announced ceasefire between Israel, Iran, and the U.S. and said, quote, "The ceasefire is now in effect. Please do not violate it." Well, that ought to do it. This reminds me of the time my bodega put up a no shoplifting sign. You know what happened? Someone took it. President Trump today criticized Israel and Iran for breaking their ceasefire and told reporters, quote, "We basically have 2 countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing." Wow. Based on that language and that level of analysis, I'm surprised that they didn't give him the local news chyron. Israel accused Iran this morning of violating their ceasefire. Well, so much for calling it the 12-day war. Trump's like a guy who watches the first 10 minutes of The Shining and thinks, "Nope, he got a job. That wrapped up nicely. Just wait a little bit. There's more." In a post today on Truth Social, President Trump said that, quote, "Israel is not going to attack Iran. All planes will turn around and head home while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran." If you're wondering what a plane wave is, it's how he used to wish his kids a happy birthday. Actors Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise were photographed yesterday at the London premiere of F1 for the first time in 24 years. This first reported by your mom suddenly falling silent in the living room. The fast food chain Bojangles has unveiled a new breakfast burrito, which features sausage, eggs, potatoes, cheese, and Southern-style sausage gravy, and it has all 4 food groups: brown, light brown, wet, and stretchy. That's right, Bojangles unveiled a new breakfast burrito, which features sausage, egg, potatoes, cheese, and Southern-style sausage gravy. Not to be outdone, Raising Cane's is now offering just a gun. That's right, Bojangles. Yeah, if there's a story like this, we're going to do 3 jokes. That's right, Bojangles has unveiled a new breakfast burrito, which features sausage, eggs, potatoes, cheese, and Southern-style sausage gravy. This news first reported in another hallway address to the nation. And finally, today was National Relationship Equity Day, so tonight, I'm gonna fake it. Not fair that she always does that, you know? President Trump attended a state dinner yesterday in the Netherlands, but they did have to pull a few tricks to get him there. A leaked Pentagon report suggests that Saturday's airstrikes against Iran set the country's nuclear program back by only several months, which doesn't seem that long until you remember that Trump has only been president for several months. That's right, a leaked Pentagon assessment suggests that Saturday's U.S. airstrikes against Iranian nuclear sites were not as effective as initially reported. Well, we always knew Hegseth wasn't great with targets. That's the guy. We said, we got to get him. We got to get him in charge of the military. While speaking to reporters yesterday aboard Air Force One, President Trump said he opposes the idea of regime change in Iran and added, quote, "I'd like to see everything calm down as quickly as possible." Bro, is this you?
They don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Whoa, be the change you wish to see in the world. You gotta chill out. Just take a deep breath and pretend you're on trial. Yesterday was New York City's Democratic mayoral primary, and former Governor Andrew Cuomo conceded to State Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani. On the bright side for Cuomo, at least he doesn't have to move to New York City. During his concession speech, Cuomo said that Mamdani put together a great campaign and added, quote, "He touched young people and inspired them and got them to come out and vote. Cuomo's mistake was waiting until after he was elected to touch young people." Like somebody left a door open. The New York Times published a report this week about a facility that Amazon is building in Indiana to develop an artificial intelligence system that matches the human brain. So yeah, it'll still say irregardless. ESPN has announced that it's renewed its media deal with the Premier Lacrosse League. Yay! Said only Connecticut. McDonald's and Krispy Kreme announced yesterday they will end their partnership, and I'm not surprised. I'll bet both of those companies have ended thousands of partnerships. And finally, a video has gained attention online that shows a woman complaining that she was reprimanded at Disney World for wearing leggings and a sports bra to the theme park, which is pretty ridiculous considering the employees are walking around without pants. When asked yesterday about his meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky, President Trump said Zelensky, quote, "couldn't have been nicer," before adding, "I could have, though." During a press conference yesterday at the NATO summit, President Trump praised the U.S. military pilot who carried out Saturday's operation against Iran and said that the night was, quote, "virtually moonless." But take that with a grain of salt because he claims it's because they obliterated the moon. The moon will not mess with us again. During an interview yesterday, President Trump's special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, said that the conflict between Iran, Israel, and the U.S. is over, and added, the proof is in the pudding, no one's shooting at each other. And yes, anytime the shooting stops in the Middle East, you can be sure it's over forever. The White House said this week that the 19-year-old DOJ staffer nicknamed Big Balls has left the administration. At this rate, it won't be long before they're down to just no balls and weird balls. In a new interview, Second Lady Usha Vance, said she has not considered what will happen after Vice President J.D. Vance's term and added, quote, I'm not plotting out next steps or really trying for anything after this. Wow, and here I thought he only drained the life force out of the Pope. Coors Light today unveiled a refrigerated bow tie called the Burr Tie, in case you're wondering what kind of idea comes out of a Friday meeting at 4:45. Red Lobster yesterday launched its Festival of Summer Sips, which includes the Purple Haze cocktail made with Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg's gin, desert pear, lemonade, and sparkling gold shimmer. Said a Red Lobster spokesman, look, we don't know, okay? Nobody wants lobster. We don't know what to do. We're out of ideas, man. Finally, according to a new survey, the average person believes that couples should have sex 5 times a week in order to have a healthy relationship. 5 times a week? That means I'd have to ask 30 times a week. I don't have the stamina to ask that many times. That was a monologue, everybody. We have begun.